or good afternoon. My name is Kelly Middleton Banks. I'm the Technical Advisor with Workforce and Apprenticeships at the National Institute of Work and Learning at FHI 360. And on behalf of FHI 360 and NIWL, thank you for spending part of your day with us to focus on the most powerful strategies in our field, apprenticeships. Today's event is made possible by a grant awarded by the U.S. Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration to the National Institute of Work and Learning to support the expansion and development of apprenticeship programs. For those of you new to our work, FHI 360 is a global nonprofit organization dedicated to improving lives through integrated, people-centered solutions. We work across education, workforce development, health and economic opportunity, both in U.S. and around the world. Within FHI 360, NIWL focuses specifically on strengthening the connection between learning and work. Our mission is to help people of all ages from all backgrounds access meaningful, sustainable career pathways. We do this through research, technical assistance, partnerships, and a strong commitment to local communities thriving. A major part of our workforce portfolio is the Apprenticeship Building America 2 grant, or ABA 2, funded by the U.S. Department of Labor. Through this $8 million national initiative, NIWL is supporting the expansion of registered apprenticeships in several critical fields: youth development, mental and behavioral health, peer support and community health, and substance use disorder and mental health counseling. These sectors are facing urgent workforce shortages, and apprenticeships offers a practical solution to building and retaining a strong talent pipeline. This work is only possible because of the partners involved. As an intermediary and sponsor for apprenticeship programs, FHI 360 and NIWL has partnered with the National Association of Workforce Boards, New Ways to Work, Public Works Alliance, the National Youth Employment Coalition, and the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals to support the development and expansion of apprenticeship programs. And across the country, we are collaborating with a range of employer partners, community-based organizations, education providers, and state and local workforce boards. These partners are designing and implementing innovative apprenticeship programs, and their experiences are informing national models of what strong, community-rooted apprenticeship can look like. Today's Day of Learning brings together those local insights and broader system perspectives. Whether you're completely new to apprenticeship or already operating a program, our hope is that you'll leave today with practical strategies, new connections, and ideas you can bring back to your organization. You'll hear from federal partners about national priorities, learn from Colorado's statewide approach to apprenticeship design, and this afternoon you'll hear directly from employers across several sectors, including mental health, youth serving, and electrical, about the value they've seen in apprenticeships as a workforce solution. As you move through today's session, I encourage you to think about how these ideas and examples might apply in your own community. Apprenticeship is most successful when it's rooted in partnership between employers, workforce boards, education providers, and community-based organizations. That collaboration is what makes programs sustainable and what helps ensure apprentices can succeed. We're proud to make today's event available at no cost through the ABA 2 grant and grateful to NAWDP for hosting this learning opportunity. Thank you again for being here, for your commitment to strengthening the workforce, and for everything you do to advance access to career pathways. I'm excited for the conversation ahead, and with that, let's get started. Now I'll turn it back over to Kim.
Thank you. And, that's one thing that we know about workforce professionals is that we have to learn how to be adaptable and flexible. So that is our first lesson for today. But as we move forward, I am excited to introduce our kickoff speaker, Maria Brady. And Maria is a multi-state navigator with the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Apprenticeship. Maria has a lot of information to share, so I would encourage you to lean in, get ready to take notes, and get ready to learn a lot. So, Maria, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow. To just feed off of what Kim was just saying, one of my favorite quotes is, blessed are the flexible because they will not be bent out of shape. So let's maintain that flexibility and let's thank you. The next slide. So Again, my name is Maria Brady. I'm a multi-state navigator in the Dallas Office of Apprenticeship. And one of the things that I do is I'm the liaison to the state apprenticeship agencies in my region, the SAA states. And Colorado is one of my states. So I feel very privileged and proud that I'm presenting with Colorado because, well, other than the fact that I just love them, they do such wonderful things and they're terrific in the apprenticeship space. So I'm in for a treat, and I know you are too. Next slide, please. Okay, let's start out with some key related executive orders with respect to apprenticeship. And there are four that I just want to mention. The first is preparing Americans for high paying, skilled trade jobs of the future. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard of the very lofty goal of achieving 1 million active registered apprentices. Well, it's in this apprenticeship executive order that is first mentioned. So here we're talking about maximizing investments in our reindustrialization and economic growth. With respect to advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth, that is another executive order also related to apprenticeship. We're talking about promoting AI literacy and proficiency, and registered apprenticeship is a key strategy. And it's not just for American youth, by the way. Restoring America's maritime dominance. That's what that executive order is all about. And here we're talking about apprenticeable occupations in the maritime industry that includes welders, marine electricians, maritime mechanics, ship fitters, and many other occupations. Reinvigorating the nuclear industrial base is really about all ensuring our national and economic security by increasing fuel availability and production. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the administration's priority, and you've probably heard of it before: 1 million active apprentices. Now, that word active is key here because it really changes the game quite a bit. Now, this was from executive order, as we said, from the previous slide, preparing Americans for high-paying skilled trade jobs of the future. That executive order was dated April 23rd of last year. There is a message in the chat. Does anyone see the slides? And I'm hoping that you can see the slides. Okay, some people can. Okay, that's great. All right, next slide, please. Okay, now even for those who don't have the slides visible, I want you to just picture this. Listen to what I'm saying instead of necessarily focusing on the slide. Picture a giant bucket. Okay, we're talking about 1 million plus active apprentices. And by the way, that begs the question, well, how many do we have now? And we have over 700,000. But again, picture this giant bucket. It doesn't have to be red like the one on the screen, but a giant bucket full of active apprentices. Okay, so here we have this bucket. However, at the bottom of the bucket, picture two holes. One is for completions because apprentices are consistently completing their registered apprenticeship program and getting that certificate of completion, that recognized post-secondary credential. So that's one big hole. Another hole at the bottom of that bucket is cancellations. So registered apprentices cancel oftentimes during their probationary period, but not always. But that's a constantly moving target. You can see how dynamic this process is and how difficult this goal is going to be. Now let's add another mediating variable. More and more, we see 1 year registered apprenticeship programs. You know that in the United States, basically the shortest registered apprenticeship program is a year in length. 2,000 hours is basically it. That's what our regulations say, and we translate that into a year. So, with all of these 1 year programs, those registered apprentices, for lack of a better phrase, are going to be cycling in and out. So, this is a real moving target. And the only way we're going to achieve this is if we work together. Next slide, please. Okay, America's talent strategy, building the workforce for the golden age. I would encourage you to download this document. It's the vision for building America for the golden age. And it was not just written by the Department of Labor, it was also written by the Departments of Commerce and Education. So this is very much a coordinated strategy, and it needs to be. Now, this is based on 5 pillars, 5 strategic pillars. And let me just summarize each for you. Pillar 1 is industry driven strategies. And Pillar 1 is all about building reliable talent pipelines through a workforce system that's led by industry and, of course, aligned with our economic priorities. Pillar 2 is worker mobility, and Pillar 2 is all about bringing more and more Americans into the labor force and helping them advance. Pillar 3 is integrated systems, and you've heard this before about replacing a fragmented web of duplicative programs with that coordinated, streamlined system. So, in other words, instead of having all of these dots, all of these various programs that aren't connected, we've got to connect those dots. And that's what we mean by integrated systems in Pillar 3. Pillar 4 is accountability. And one of my favorite quotes is, "In God we trust, all others must use data." You know, this is about creating new models of workforce innovation that's built to match the speed of business today. So we're talking about delivering measurable results. You know, effort is rewarded in heaven, results here on earth. So that's accountability. Pillar 5, flexibility and innovation. Again, new models of workforce innovation, and we've got to be flexible. You heard me say, blessed are the flexible, or we will be bent out of shape. So innovation is critical, and of course, we can't talk about innovation without referring to AI. So this is America's talent strategy. I would encourage you to download it and take a look at it. And next slide, please. Okay, this was recently published, a funding opportunity announcement, or FOA, ETA 26-19. Yes, it sounds very bureaucratic. 26 meaning fiscal year 26, 19, this was the 19th one. This was February 17th, and this is the Pay for Performance Incentive Payments Program. And the expected funding is $145 million. Now, that $145 million is expected to fund approximately 5 cooperative agreements. So these are huge awards, and they're 4-year awards. So the funding is going to be 10 to 40 million. And again, what is it about? It's about jumpstarting the expansion of registered apprenticeship across the United States. Next slide, please. Okay. So, as I said, getting to 1 million active apprentices is not only a lofty goal, but it's a moving target. So we have to think, what are the means to help us to get there? And that's one of the reasons why we have the FOA that I just talked about. But I also want to mention a couple of other things, and these are very personal to me because I think that they're really critical. One is contracting, and I say it right there. Contracting is critical. Also, partnerships are paramount. Yes, I like alliteration, but let's start by talking about contracting and how that supports the goal of 1 million active apprentices. Next slide, please. There's a lot of words on this slide. Bear with me. Now, I'm talking about bulk contracting. That's a fancy term. All I'm doing is talking about contracting for multiple apprentices. And what it says in the initial bullet, the workforce system can utilize bulk contracting to support multiple apprentices in their on-the-job learning and their related technical instruction. Now, I saw from the poll that several folks are relatively new to registered apprenticeship. There are 5 core components to every registered apprenticeship program. Number 1 is always the employer. Number 2 is structured on-the-job learning with mentoring. That's our secret sauce. Number 3 is related instruction that supports the on-the-job learning. Number 4 is progressive wage increases. And number 5 is that certificate of completion, which is a recognized post-secondary credential. Now, the 2 key components within that, what does a registered apprenticeship program consist of? On-the-job learning and related instruction. Now, the workforce system calls OJL OJT. Now, are we just trying to be oppositional, we in the Office of Apprenticeship? No. Our regulations, which is 29 CFR Part 29, defines on-the-job learning, or OJL. The workforce system, however, defines on-the-job training by statute, specifically in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, but they are practically speaking the same. So I'm talking about here OJT contracts covering multiple apprentices. When you write an OJT contract for the workforce system, and this is true whether we're going back to CETA or JTPA or WIA or WIOA, you have to submit, you have to attach a training plan for the individual. And that just makes sense. The on-the-job training, you have to attach to the contract the training plan. Well, the beauty with respect to registered apprenticeship is that the training plan is the Appendix A. Okay. A registered apprenticeship program, how do you define it? In standards of apprenticeship. Every program has standards of apprenticeship. Depending on how many occupations are included in the program, you have one or more Appendix A's. Therefore, the Appendix A is going to serve as the training plan for every apprentice. So you can also include a range of apprentices over a period of time. Again, think about getting to 1 million. We have to have some administrative expediency. So you could have a contract that says something like supporting the wage of up to 50 apprentices over the next year, something to that effect. And OJT contracts can also cover incumbent workers in WIOA. Now, you know that incumbent worker training under WIOA is an employer service. So we're not talking about individual WIOA participants here. This is an employer service, and you can write an incumbent worker training contract. And WIOA supports incumbent worker training by requiring or allowing up to 20% of adult and dislocated worker formula funds to be spent on incumbent worker training. Now, I see a lot of questions coming in the chat, and I can't really look at them or answer them while I'm speaking, but I will get to them, I assure you. Now, on the right side of the slide is the second component, the related instruction that supports the on-the-job learning or on-the-job training. Here you could do a bulk contract, again, for multiple apprentices in a cohort. You could also include supportive services in the contract for the cohort. So again, you could include a range of apprentices over a period of time, such as, and that's just an example on the slide, covering up to 4 semesters. So maybe you're including 1 cohort or 4 cohorts if it's a semester for each cohort. If cohort training is financed through a contract, the eligible training provider list under WIOA is not involved. Now, I realize I may be speaking another language for some of you, but for those of you familiar with Title I Adult Dislocated Worker Programs, the eligible training provider list consists of those eligible training providers that, in other words, for training providers that are eligible to receive federal funds in the form of an individual training account. So here, what I'm talking about is bulk contracting need not scare you to death, and it usually does. But if we're to achieve 1 million active apprentices, we need to start thinking about bulk contracting. That's the point that I'm making here. Next slide, please. Okay, partnerships are paramount. And you know this, we all know this. In our heart of hearts, we know this, but it's very difficult. And look at the quote. Yes, I love quotes. The quote at the bottom of the slide. The greatest challenge to communication is the illusion that it has even taken place. So we may think we've made a dent, we've communicated with someone when we really haven't. So again, that speaks to, well, saying the same thing again and in different ways so that it appeals to different audiences. First off, know your state director of apprenticeship. Every state, every territory, we have a state director of apprenticeship. Now, also in larger states, there are apprenticeship training representatives or ATRs, and they're usually responsible for a certain territory. Like in the state of Texas, I work in Dallas, Texas, and for the great state of Texas, there's a state director and there are 6 ATRs spread around the state, and their job is to register apprenticeship programs. Develop a relationship with your ATR. You can find out who your ATR is. You can go to our website, our www.apprenticeship.gov website, and you can find out who the state director is there, their contact information. You can email them and say, is there an ATR for my area? And they might say, no, there isn't, but how can I help you? Okay. Now, I just mentioned the national website, but every state should have a state website or at least a link on a current state website to registered apprenticeship information. Some states have wonderful websites, and you can actually go there and get lots of great information. The point is, don't stop communicating. Communicating is the hardest thing in the world. Door number two is always planning, but communicating is critical. It's very important. I mean, think about your own families. How difficult is it to communicate? Very difficult. And these are people that you love. Okay. So think about people that you work with who you don't love. So it's very, and I'm sorry I went there. So it's very important that you understand the importance of communication and that it's very difficult. And sometimes we think we got through and we didn't. Next slide, please. National Apprenticeship Week is a national celebration. For 10 years, it was scheduled for the week after Veterans Day. This is the first year where we are doing it in the spring. And that's because we heard and we listened to our northern neighbors from our northern states that it's very difficult in November. So it will be April 26th through May 2nd, and there is a theme for this National Apprenticeship Week. It is America at Work, making America skilled again through registered apprenticeship. That's all I have. I thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
All right. Thank you, Maria, for that amazing overview. And there are some questions in the chat, so I can kind of go down and read some of the questions. But one that you may want to start with, I know you talked a lot about WIOA, WIA. Somebody put the question in, how or does this apply to nonprofits, which it does, but
Yes.
if you can just kind of talk a little bit about like how nonprofit organizations uses this information.
Okay, a nonprofit organization, depending on what you do, you could register an apprenticeship program. I'd like to get more information, but one of my national registered apprenticeship programs that's in my caseload is a 501c3. So a lot of our sponsors are nonprofits. So you can consider that. And of course, WIOA also serves, nonprofit entities.
Thank you. And I hope that answered your question. And if not, you can definitely put a follow-up
Yes.
question
Yes,
into the
please.
chat box. Let's see. Jennifer asked, can you go back to the slide about bulk contract? And Jennifer, did you have a specific question about that slide?
Yeah, I wanted to see the slide because Miss Maria Brady said, and for some reason now my Zoom is cutting off the bottom part of the slide. Oh, there we go. If cohort training is financed through a contract, the ETPL is not involved. So
Yep.
can you speak, I'm sorry, can you speak on that a little bit more?
Sure. And the first thing folks are going to say, Jennifer, is where do you get that information? Well, door number one is going to be the WIOA statute. So this is in the legislation. Now, does it say, Maria said, cohort training is financed through a contract, therefore the ETPL is not involved? No, it doesn't say that. However, where it does say that is in federal policy guidance. And that policy, if you have a pen and paper, is TEGL 13-16. There is a chart in there. And on one of the pages, it's a matrix. It will say cohort training to support related instruction. I wrote that section. Does that help?
I think I'm just a little confused because on the state level, my understanding is that you could have a registered apprenticeship training provider, and then you could have an ETPL training provider, but that doesn't necessarily equate. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking of when I see this bullet point. I'm still a little confused, but I can maybe just let the information marinate and I can always follow up with other questions.
Well, I would encourage you to reach out. I mean, I think emails are provided, and it's really important to understand. See, this is a way to get around, and I'm sorry to say this, but to get around the ETPL. Many of our registered apprenticeship programs across the country, national programs, local programs, are having difficulty getting on their statewide ETPLs, which is not supposed to be the case. You're not supposed to have to jump through 1,000 hoops to get on the ETPL because you're automatically eligible if you're a registered apprenticeship program sponsor. But that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay. But is it that way? Often, no. So, the way to get around that is actually through, cohort training, financing an entire class, a class, a cohort, for a certain cycle. And you can do that through a contract. Contracts have nothing to do with the ETPO.
So just to make sure, so an employer could hypothetically have, an employer sponsor could hypothetically have a cohort of registered apprentices. And then if they're working with the registered apprenticeship training provider, and that's like, it could be a contract kind of thing. And then they could be
Right.
kind of going around the ETPL, so to speak, to
Now,
be.
the workforce board could, yes, 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 exactly. Now, who is funding it? It's going to be the work. These are WIOA dollars unless they're grant dollars.
Okay. So the WIO dollars are funding it. Okay. And that's kind of way, like you say, to get around, so to speak, the ETPL. Okay, that makes a little more sense to me. Thank you.
But if you have any, like, how you understand something and then 2 minutes later it's gone,
Yeah.
just reach out again.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Maria, Susan has a question in the chat as well, to kind of piggyback on what Jennifer was saying. And Susan says, is there a specific number that constitutes a cohort?
No, no. You could say four. A class. Think about a class. Now, I've seen some classes that are five. I've seen some classes that are 18. Think about a cohort of medical students. Think about a cohort of pharmacy technicians. I mean, any cohort.
I do have another question. I'm sorry if I'm jumping the line, but since we're on the topic, so again, with the example, let's say there's an employer sponsor, registered training provider, and a cohort of four registered apprentices. And so they're gonna, let's say they want to tap into those WIOA dollars to kind of go around the ETPL. What do they do from there? Are they reaching out to the registered apprenticeship state director or the local
No,
contact? Are they reaching out to WIOA, the workforce board, to
this
tap
is
into those dollars?
these
How
are
do they tap
WIOA
into those
dollars.
dollars?
These are WIOA Title I dollars that we're talking about. Okay. So the employer is either working with like a business service rep at the local board or something like that, or they're working with someone else at the local board, and they're on the either maybe they're on the ETPL, maybe not, and they talk about, well, we can finance a cohort, four people, the next cohort, because it's consistent with our in-demand occupations, blah, blah, blah.
So it's through the local board. Okay, thank you.
All right, Maria, Rebecca has a question in the chat as well. And Rebecca's question is, the contract model that you're describing, do workforce boards automatically grant the dollars as long as you meet all the required criteria? Or is this something more like an application where they review and choose certain applications?
Well, I would say it's both. What I've done for like one of my states is help them come up with an application for training, for cohort bulk contracting dollars, but that doesn't take away the need for an OJT contract. Okay. And that you need your fiscal folks. I mean, then we get into contracting. And I mean, one of the things, we don't do enough OJT contracts in workforce. We used to decades ago I mean, that's when I started, and we used that you couldn't spit without hitting an OJT contract, but now they're very rare and it's a shame. Sorry, was I a little crass there, Rebecca? Anyway, okay. I
All
guess
right,
that's all.
and I'm sorry. So going, Mary Ellen had a question. Mary Ellen says, under WIOA, persons on cash benefits are supposed to be one of the priorities. How are they considered in registered or in apprenticeship programs? And also in rural areas, she asked, where are the apprenticeship programs?
Well, where are the apprenticeship programs? The best place to look is on your state apprenticeship website. You could also look at the federal apprenticeship website and you can do a search. Now, what was the first one? I mean, there were several. I wish I could go back to so I could see the words. Could you say it again?
Yeah, absolutely. So under WIOA, persons on cash benefits are supposed to be one of the priorities.
Right.
How are they considered in apprenticeship programs?
Well, first off, you have to meet the qualifications. Okay. So this isn't, and remember, registered apprenticeship is a job. Okay. This is not, let me hold your hand kind of thing. Now, if you need remediation to meet the qualifications of a registered apprenticeship program, that is the purview of pre-apprenticeship, but individuals have to meet the qualifications. For some registered apprenticeship programs, the qualifications are simply 16 and above, high school diploma or equivalency, and access to transportation. But in some registered apprenticeship programs, there are more qualifications. So, regardless of whether you have cash benefits or not.
Awesome, thank you. We also have Tanya who asked, what was the number of the legislation that you wrote?
Oh, the policy, the not yeah, 13-16.
13-16.
Yes, TEGL 13-16. Now, for those of you that are writing right now, also write down TEGL 19-16. That's also critical. That needs to be part of your playbook if you are in the workforce system. And just quickly, I see a question here. Is the 2,000 hours for RAPS for the education or the OJT? That's the OJT. There must be 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning. As far as the supplemental related instruction, regulations say a recommended amount of 144 hours per year of the OJL.
Sounds good. All right. So we will keep the chat open for another few seconds. So if anybody else has any questions, feel free to put those in. And if for some reason we don't get to your question, or if you think about the question while we're on break and you type it into the chat box, I'll make sure that I'm going back through the chat box and aggregating those questions, and we will have a QA doc that we make available as well. So if you can't think of that question right now, but it comes up a little bit later on, we'll be sure to get those answered. All right.
Thank you,
Any
everybody.
other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Maria. So if you can help me just thank Maria in the chat box. Maria, we appreciate you. All right. So at this time, so we've heard from that federal perspective. Again, as you're thinking through everything that Maria said, you will get a recording of this and it'll be available on our website. So you can definitely go back through, think about those questions that you may have, even after you watch it again. And I'll be sure to get those to Maria so that we can get those answered for you. So we have that federal perspective. And so at this time, we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit. And before we close out for our break, we are going to have an apprentice perspective. So at this time, I'll let Kelly come off of mute. And Kelly, if you can come off of mute and introduce our apprentice that will be speaking here with us.
Great. Thanks so much, Kim. And thank you, Maria, for all of that information, giving us an idea of what the federal landscape is and how apprenticeships will meet our million apprentices. So excited to see the questions as well. So please keep those questions coming, and we'll make sure to get answers to you. We wanted to make sure to, as we talk about apprenticeship, acknowledging that apprenticeship requires partnerships, and it's the employers, there's community partners, education institutions, and there's the apprentice who has the opportunity to take this journey to increase professional development skills and grow their professional career. And so today we have Debbie Williams, who's a program manager with the Boys and Girls Club of Lake County in Illinois, to share a little bit about what her experience has been as an apprentice and now an apprentice alumni, and just to talk a little bit about, what the journey was for her. So Devier, I will turn it over to you, and you could just unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hey, Kelly.
Hi,
Um,
Devier.
Hi, everybody else. I'm Debbie from Illinois, Boys and Girls Club of Lake County. And I was an apprentice. Yeah. Um, and my experience in the apprenticeship, hello, shout out Lake County. My experience, it was not what I expected. It was not what I was expecting at all. Actually, I was like a brand new person into my position. So I'm called a program manager. I was 23 when I got this position and I had no idea what to expect. And then they were like, "Do you want to do an apprenticeship too?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is, but I'm going to do it." I didn't have like the full on college experience. I went to college during COVID. So I went on spring break and never came back. And so I wanted to fulfill something that felt similar to that. I'm also so passionate about the work that I do at Boys and Girls Club. So I'm like the person who makes opportunities and brings opportunities for the youth in my program. And I'm so passionate about that work and being better at that work that I wanted to do anything that I could to like develop myself, like to grow. So this apprenticeship was exactly that. Again, as a brand new manager, as a young manager, I had a lot of questions. I was wondering if I was even doing any of the things right. And I feel like the apprenticeship was a lot of that confirmation for me. Every like new chapter that we were like going through, it felt like it was speaking to me personally. That I was like, okay, that's exactly what I'm going through. This is exactly the guidance that I needed. This is exactly what I should do when I turn around and do that work. Or it was actually very reflective of what I was going through already. Like, oh, okay, I've been through this already. I did handle this correctly. And yeah.
Devier, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what has been your experience since moving through the apprenticeship, what additional opportunities that you've
Mm,
had, and also share a little bit about, what you would uh, suggest or recommend to another young adult
mm,
or adult that's looking to engage or considering an apprenticeship program.
mhm,
So what have you been doing since
mhm.
then? What have you been get engaged in? And then, of course, what would you suggest for an apprentice that's considered or someone considering the journey?
Okay. Um, so far I have been offered like an opportunity such as this to speak to a wonderful group of people like you all. I also did that in person in New Orleans, which was really awesome. And then here at our club, we now get to like turn the tables and work with our peers to put them in these same positions for growth opportunities. So yeah, I've been on a roll. I've been also looked at as a person here at club as someone who is ready for more things and more opportunities. So we have gone on more developmental trips now that we have had this as an opportunity. This has opened like so much more knowledge wise for us that our club was like, okay, well, we want to put you all in more positions for development. So that's one great thing that this has added to my life. And then if someone is looking to do something like this, I'm sorry, could you ask me that again? If they're looking to do this, what kind of advice would I give them or what?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I would recommend keeping an open mind. And what I was so worried about doing this is I was like, oh, I have to like complete this task and this is nothing that I've done already, but I was literally living the experience that we are talking about and training on and watching videos about and like reading articles about. I literally was like printing off the same articles and talking to my staff about it in the afternoon. So this is your real life and it is not as, I don't even know the word for it. It's just not as overwhelming as you think it is. It's not as scary and not as like different as you think it is. It is exactly what you're going through.
So Devier, we have a few questions in the chat. And again, thank you so much for being here. I know one question that has come up. Devier was part of the Youth Development Practitioner Apprenticeship Program that FHI 360, the National Institute of Work and Learning, sponsors. And so she was part of our cohort that we had in the Lake County area, which was a series of CBOs and the Workforce Development Board. And so she's one of our shining stars in the effort. But all of the apprentices that have come through that program have been wonderful to work with and continue to engage. I have a question for you. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure I start at the top. What do you wish your employer knew when first starting that you know now that would have jump-started your engagement or success? Yeah, what do you wish your employer knew that you know now that would have jump-started your engagement or success? And they love Boys and Girls Club, by the way.
Love you all too. Love you all too. This has changed my life. I'm not gonna lie. I love the club. But something that I wish we would have known is I wish we would have known how to like implement it into our schedules. We just were like doing a lot of things. We were doing like too many things all at once. And so I wish that, well, what we started to do towards the end, which was really helpful, is that we started to like block off certain times in our day that no one could bother us, nobody can interfere with us in getting, because it was really great to do group work, to sit down as a like group together and complete the tasks. So when we had blocked off time, that was like way more beneficial to us completing it, and meeting with Daria was really awesome for us as well. So
Let's see. I know someone else asked about what the related instruction was. So FHI 360 and NIWL, we offer the related instruction for this apprenticeship, and it highlights youth development skill sets. It's 165 hours covering 9 competencies, and the sessions are actually virtual. And they meet twice a month with the apprentices to talk through the content, as well as one-on-one meetings in between, group sessions, and other opportunities for engagement, as Devier has expressed, and with her being here with us today. Let's see if there were any other questions. I think, I believe that was all.
I think that is all of the
Yeah,
questions.
I think that
We
was
do
all.
have somebody, and on behalf of everybody here, Devier, thank you for sharing your story with us. Somebody put it in the chat box, so I'll just read it out loud. I think this is what everybody's saying. It's a great testimony. Thank you for sharing your journey with us, what you learned, and how you've grown and continue to open future opportunities. I know a lot of times workforce professionals, like we do learn about those rules and regulations, how to implement apprenticeships, but it is a breath of fresh air when we also get to hear from the apprentice perspective. So we appreciate you being here today. And I also see that we have another attendee on, Sarah Espeland. And Sarah is also an apprentice. So Sarah, I don't know if you want to just come off of mute and just introduce yourself, but Sarah is also apprentice. And Sarah, you went through, I think, FHI 360 as well.
Yes, I did. It was a wonderful experience. I was in the first cohort, and our board actually sent two people from Lake County Workforce Development, and both of us since have received promotions. We've continued to stay engaged with our fellow apprentices. So I think a major impact for me was just learning the different services and different things in our own community that all the other apprentices do. So we may have known a little bit about what they did at Boys and Girls Club or a little bit about what they did at YCC, but once you go through a whole program for all those months together with people, you get a much deeper understanding. So the referral process has been great afterwards. So thank you. It was a wonderful program.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much, Sarah, for coming off mute and sharing your
Of
experience.
course. Good to see you.
Good seeing you too. We'll make sure to share information about the Youth Development Practitioner Apprenticeship Program. As I mentioned, we are the sponsor, and so you don't have to worry about the paperwork burden in regards to registration. We definitely try to ensure that we cover that. And if you're interested in having your organization participate, we'll make sure to get that information out to you. I appreciate Sarah. She shared a link to the coursework that we have on our website, and always open for any conversations around engagement in the Youth Development Practitioner Apprenticeship. And I want to thank Devier and Sarah for your participation in the program and for your continued support. It's been a thrill to see you all blossom and grow in your roles and in your professional journey. So thank you again for taking the time to share.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Davier.
All right, so this wraps up the first part of our day of learning. So we are going to just take a breather, let you all go and reset, and we will meet back here at 30 minutes after the hour. So in about 30 minutes, and we will start on our state perspective. So enjoy your lunch or coffee, and we will see you in 30 minutes. All right, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your break. I would say a lunch break. It wasn't quite 30 minutes, but hope you enjoyed your time to just come back. Let's reset and get started with our second half. So we did have a great first half that was just full of information and resources. Just a quick recap over what Maria Brady talked about from the federal level. So Maria did start off talking about some key apprenticeship executive orders from the federal level. She also talked about administration's priority of having 1 million apprentices. So she went through that. She talked about the 5 pillars of America's talent strategy. She talked to us about the importance of bulk contracting and partnering. And then she gave us some great information on National Apprenticeship Week. So we got through that, and then we had an amazing apprentice to come on and talk about her experience as an apprentice. So we've seen those two perspectives. So now it is time to turn to our state perspective. So we are excited to highlight the state of Colorado today. So we have our two presenters. We have Bryn Nelson and Melissa English. The state of Colorado, of course, is doing some amazing efforts toward moving and improving and expanding apprenticeships. So we're excited to hear from them today. So I will turn it over at this time to Bryn. And Bryn, you can come off of mute and you can take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. Good to see everyone here. Good to have such a huge crowd online. And then also really, really excited to be part of this amazing lineup. The speakers so far have been incredible, such good information, and hopefully we can just continue that information sharing and gathering. So if you could go to the next slide. Hi, everyone. My name is Bryn. I'm the Apprenticeship Expansion Manager for Apprenticeship Colorado. Apprenticeship Apprenticeship Colorado is Colorado's state apprenticeship agency, and I'll go into what that means here soon. Really just excited to talk to you all today about some of the innovative things that we're doing at the state level in Colorado to expand apprenticeship access in Colorado. So if we want to go to the next slide. So in this session, we're really hoping just to share with you all about how Colorado is integrating registered apprenticeship into a core workforce development strategy to build high quality industry aligned career pathways. We're highlighting successful initiatives and alignment strategies that we have and that are really helping us meet our ambitious goal of creating 100 new registered apprenticeship programs every single year. So first, we're going to start off with an overview of Apprenticeship Colorado, our priorities and our services and what we do. Second, we're going to dive into one of the tools that we use, which is the apprenticeship development form. And we use that for new registered apprenticeship program development. After that, we're going to switch over to some innovative strategies that we're implementing, specifically to leverage partners to expand the apprenticeship system. And then finally, we are going to round it all out today with spotlighting our groundbreaking teacher degree apprenticeship program. We want to go to the next slide. That's just an intro. I'll have you go to the next one after that. Thank you very much. So for those of you who don't know, Apprenticeship Colorado is just the name of our Colorado State Apprenticeship Agency, or the SAA. So we became the SAA July 1, 2023. So we took that regulatory responsibility over from USDOL in 2023. Of course, we still work very, very closely with them to implement our apprenticeship system in Colorado. So our responsibilities include registering and overseeing apprenticeship programs in Colorado. We provide technical assistance to current and prospective sponsors. And then we also align our registered apprenticeship system with our workforce, education, and economic development priorities. A lot of the innovative strategies that we're going to dive into today are within that third bullet point there. And then, of course, there's always the other duties as assigned in statute, because we get the privilege of having some statutes that we get to implement as well. Next slide. So diving into our priorities, and I'm happy that Maria was able to share some of the federal priorities because they really, really align with what we're doing in Colorado here too. So we really have 4 core strategies that we implement and prioritize. So first is quality. So implementing a quality registered apprenticeship system in Colorado. And in order to achieve the return on investment of the registered apprenticeship system, it's essential to us to ensure that this model is faithfully implemented and integrated into the national registered apprenticeship system. So participating in that national apprenticeship system allows for access to, for federal incentives, resources, and the nationally recognized credential that all registered apprenticeship programs end with. The second to really complement the administration's focus on having getting to 1 million apprentices. So first, we're focusing in on expansion of the number of registered apprenticeship programs. So employers need a broader talent pool and workers need more access to high quality jobs. And in order to meet that demand, growing our system in Colorado is really necessary. And so, as I mentioned previously, we do have a goal of expanding our registered apprenticeship system by 100 programs every year. Also really focusing in on increasing access for more individuals in our state, particularly those that are underrepresented. So apprenticeship, when intentionally implemented, has unlimited potential in opening career opportunities for underrepresented workers and increasing the enrollment of apprentices in Colorado and statewide. And so we focus on that through one-on-one support to program sponsors in coordination with our partners to focus on expanding access and apprenticeship to grow the system in Colorado. So we're getting to those 1 million apprentices not only by increasing the number of registered apprenticeship programs, but also increasing who is accessing registered apprenticeship programs. And then finally, our last priority is innovation. So we recognize that the State Apprenticeship Agency is just one of many partners within the apprenticeship ecosystem in Colorado that makes it possible for employers and job seekers to benefit from registered apprenticeship. And so we actively work with our workforce, education, and economic development partners to ensure system alignment and to meaningfully expand the apprenticeship system in Colorado. Moving on to our next slide, that's really focuses in more on our services that we provide. So we have sort of 5 main buckets of services that our State Apprenticeship Agency offers. So first is focusing in on program development. So that's creating new registered apprenticeship programs and walking potential sponsors through that registration process to make sure those new programs are meeting those state and federal regulations. We're going to hear a little bit more about that, specifically about one of the tools we use to promote that and move that process along here shortly. Second bucket is quality assurance and compliance support. So once we help those new registered apprenticeship programs stand up their programs and get them registered, we then make sure on an ongoing basis that they are meeting those state and federal requirements. And so we provide that technical assistance to registered apprenticeship sponsors to make sure they're keeping their program in compliance. Third bucket is data reporting and systems support. So making sure that we are collecting all the data that we need and really using it to understand the impact of registered apprenticeship in our state. So we have actually a brand new team that's focusing on this, which is really, really exciting. Moving on to that fourth bucket, it's more about access and expansion. So focusing in on leveraging partners, leveraging outreach strategies, and then piloting new initiatives to engage more career seeker and employers in registered apprenticeship. We do this through not only federal funding, but also through state funding and initiatives as well. And then finally, we do also both administer grants, state and federal grants, as well as give out funding in Colorado to sponsors or organizations that are starting registered apprenticeship programs in order to increase that access to registered apprenticeship. And those funds, like I said, it's a mix of federal funds, state funds, kind of where it depends on where those dollars are coming from. Next slide. I think I'm going to be passing it over to Melissa.
Great. Thanks, Fran. So yes, I am Melissa English, and I am the interim state director of the State Apprenticeship Agency. And I am going to walk you through one of our tools that we use at the State Apprenticeship Agency to help in achieving one of the goals that Bryn was talking about. And before I get into that, I am going to share just a little bit more information about what we do at the State Apprenticeship Agency and what some of our numbers are. So if you can go to the next slide. So we are really proud about what we have accomplished since we became the State Apprenticeship Agency in 2023. We have worked really closely with the U.S. Department of Labor since before we were the SAA and since becoming the SAA. And we've just continued to strengthen that relationship as well as strengthening the relationship we've had with the businesses and organizations that have registered apprenticeships in Colorado. And we really feel like that story is told through some of our numbers. And so we always like to share those when we're kind of sharing a little bit about who we are with new audiences who might not know a little bit about us. So we like to talk about how many apprentices we have, how many registered apprenticeship programs, and a little bit about how we are working towards that goal of 100 new programs every year. So I think I pulled these numbers this weekend. So this weekend we had just over 9,775 active apprentices living in Colorado. So we love to see that number grow, and hopefully, soon we'll be over that 10,000 number and continuing to help reach that million apprentice number that you heard a little bit earlier when Maria was talking. And to get that number higher, we have to have registered apprenticeship programs for those apprentices to join. And so currently in Colorado, we have 435 approximately 435 registered apprenticeship sponsors. And those sponsors are hosting over 900 registered apprenticeship programs in different occupations. So those apprentices are participating in programs in all different types of occupations, some in what we call our building and construction trades, and others are in our new and emerging industries. And so our apprentices have all different types of opportunities to have their registered apprenticeship programs. And we are building more and more programs every single day. And so that kind of leads me to the goal that Bryn was talking about. Every year, we have a governor's initiative to build 100 new registered apprenticeship programs. And so every year since we've become the state apprenticeship agency, we've been able to reach that goal, and we are on par to reach that again this year. So since July 1st of 2023, we have built 291 registered apprenticeship programs. And we just keep building more and more programs so that those apprentices have more opportunities to join. If you want to go to the next slide. So this year, we are currently at 79 of our 100 new program goal. And so we are in March, and we have until June 30th to get to our 100 programs. So we still have quite a ways to get there. So hopefully by June, we will far exceed our 100 goal. And that's really exciting for our team to be able to help our sponsors in Colorado create all of those opportunities. So next slide, please. So I wanted to walk you all through a little bit about what that journey looks like for our sponsors who are developing these programs. Because we are really proud of the different technical support that we provide to sponsors. We really focus on meeting every sponsor, potential sponsor, anyone who's coming in contact with Apprenticeship Colorado, to meet them where they are and kind of walk them through this journey of building a program. And so we've created this map to kind of show you what it looks like. So at the beginning of our map is really exploration. So we help everyone really explore registered apprenticeship and help them determine if registered apprenticeship is that workforce solution for that organization and their partners. And so it might look different for different organizations. And we are completely okay with meeting with organizations and having the answer be like, maybe registered apprenticeship isn't the right fit, and connecting them right with another partner. We're always really excited when registered apprenticeship is the right fit, and then we can walk them through the rest of the journey with them. But we have really strong partnerships with all sorts of different organizations so that we can be sending referrals back and forth to make sure that we really are focusing on getting everyone to that right solution to meet their workforce need. One thing that we've implemented within the last year or two is having regular orientations for potential sponsors. So twice a month, we have orientations that individuals can come to and just explore all things registered apprenticeship. And it helps them determine if registered apprenticeship is that good fit. And that has really helped both our staff with capacity to be able to meet a lot of interested individuals in one space, and for potential sponsors to come and learn all about registered apprenticeship and help them make that decision during that exploration phase. So once a sponsor decides that registered apprenticeship is a good fit, then they continue on their journey, and they're meeting with a member of our team to help them identify who's going to fill each role of that registered apprenticeship program. And that is when we're determining who's going to be the sponsor, who's going to be that employer related instruction provider. And we're really filling in all of those dots, making referrals to potential partners, and making sure we're really building that strong foundation of that registered apprenticeship program. Next, we jump up into the development of the program, spending a lot of time with a team member to build out the on-the-job learning related instruction and preparing that program for registration. As we kind of head down the next place of our journey, we are registering the program. So Apprenticeship Colorado, that team really helps to prepare all of the documents, making sure that the program is completely ready for registration so that there aren't any surprises along the way, making sure to have all of the conversations that need to be had so that when they're at the end and ready for registration, that program is all ready and that it is a smooth transition from development to registration. After the program is registered, that sponsor is then connected to post-registration support to help with things like recruitment, accessing to funding, and just making sure that that sponsor is set up to build a very strong and sustainable program. And so that we work with our workforce partners or other partners within the community. And Bryn's going to talk about some of our other partners that really help with our post-registration supports. So that is what our kind of program development process and journey looks like. And it has been really helpful in helping us reach that goal of 100 programs and making sure that once we build the programs, they're sustainable and successful for the long term to make sure that the apprentices are getting everything that they need as well. Next slide. So we wanted to give you a tool that you can take home with you today at the end of your time with us. And so something that I've used throughout my entire time working in apprenticeship has been the apprenticeship development form. And so we wanted to share that with you in case there were some nuggets that might be helpful for you as you're exploring registered apprenticeship. So what is the apprenticeship development form? So like I said, it's something that we've been using since 2020. We developed it in partnership with the U.S. Department of Labor when we were working with them, making referrals to them on a regular basis, and wanting to make sure we were getting USDOL all of the information they needed about programs to be able to register them effectively. And then as we became the SAA, we integrated that into our regular program registration process as well. And so it is really a planning blueprint for every new registered apprenticeship. It helps them design their apprenticeship, and then it connects them to resources throughout that development and implementation process. So it is really, it's what it sounds like. It is a form that helps develop the program. It gathers all of the information that's needed so that it's all in one place, easy access, helps sponsors really think through the program development. We ask questions about just general program information. We're going to ask information about who their employer is, who their related instruction provider is, make sure we're collecting all of the minimum qualifications about the program, the selection procedures, the wages. So all of the information that we need to be able to register the program, we've talked about it, we've had the conversations, and it's all in one place so that registration is a very easy process when we get to the end of that development process. So here's a little snapshot of what it looks like. But like I said, it really is, apprenticeship development form is completed in partnership with a member of our team or with a member of our qualified apprenticeship intermediaries, which Bryn is going to talk about in a bit. And we take all of the information from the apprenticeship development form, to create our apprenticeship standards. And then, like I said, really it is smooth sailing to the registration. Then we have everything we need for our application, and everything aligns with our state and federal requirements. So we don't like to have any surprises at the end of the development form or the development process. We want to make sure that every sponsor is set up for success and that they know that their program is going to be approved and registered because they have all the information they need, and that we feel confident that their program meets all state and federal requirements. So why we think it's important, it really helps sponsors think through all those important questions and decisions to help them design their program. But it also helps us gather that information that is required to register the program and helps us know that that program meets the regulatory requirements. Next, I'm going to pass it back to Bryn, and she's going to talk about some of the things that I alluded to a little bit.
Sounds good. Thanks, Melissa. All right, diving into a few of our innovative initiatives that we have in Colorado. If we want to go to the next slide. So first wanted to go through our tax credit, which is relatively new. I think it came out a year or so ago. And this is funding, this is state funding. So this is state legislation that did enact this tax credit. It's a 10-year tax credit, and it's specific to the new and emerging industries. I'll go into how we define that. But just wanted to give you all some of the details here, just in case either your state is exploring setting up a tax credit, or if you're a registered apprenticeship sponsor and you're working in Colorado, you may be eligible. So wanted to make sure you all were aware that we do have this. So the tax credit is equal for up to $6,300 for 6 months of employment of the apprentice, plus an additional $1,500 or $1,050 for each additional month of employment. So that's specific to the apprentice. So it's a maximum of $12,600 per apprentice per income tax year, and this is going directly to the employer of the registered apprenticeship program, so whoever is actually employing that apprentice. So qualifying taxpayers can claim up to 10 apprentices. So if it's $12,600 per apprentice times 10, that's a maximum tax credit of $126,000. We do have a total of $15 million available each year for 10 years. If we want to go to the next slide, I believe that has more details on the eligibility. So going through the eligibility, it is employers do have to be a qualified taxpayer doing business in Colorado. They do need to employ one or more apprentices in a registered apprenticeship program for at least 6 months of the tax year. They need to employ apprentices in what we call new and emerging industries. And basically that's any industry that is not the building and construction trades. So this funding opportunity really is focused in on building more registered apprenticeship programs and supporting employers within those industries that are just maybe starting up registered apprenticeships or traditionally have not been as represented in registered apprenticeship. We do have a list of all the occupations that you can look at if you're not sure. And then they do also need to be listed on the Colorado Registered Apprenticeship Programs Directory. So in Colorado, we actually have a directory of all of our apprenticeship programs. And so in order to tap into that tax credit, you do need to be listed on there. If you're registered in Colorado, you get automatically added. But if you're a national program that's doing business in Colorado, then we can add you to our directory. You'll just have to reach out to us directly, and we can help you do that. Next slide, please. So that's the tax credit, which has been super helpful and a great opportunity for employers in our state. Very thankful for that state legislation that passed a few years ago. Moving on to our next innovative strategy. In Colorado, we recognize what we call qualified apprenticeship intermediaries. Some of you may have heard the term intermediary before. Usually it's referring to an organization that somehow supports the registered apprenticeship system. A lot of times, intermediaries nationally are known more on the employer side of supporting industries to adopt apprenticeships. So this may look like a multi-employer registered apprenticeship program that is acting as that sponsor and then taking on that administrative support to implement the registered apprenticeship program. And so in Colorado, we officially recognize these entities because we really understand the value that intermediaries bring to our system in Colorado and how we really can't expand our apprenticeship system meaningfully without these intermediaries, because the state apprenticeship agency, we're a small team. We do what we can, but as the intermediaries are so crucial in getting the word out about apprenticeship, talking with employers, talking with career seekers, and really helping us expand. I see a lot of our intermediaries actually on this call today. So shout out to all you QAIs. Good to see you. We're really, really proud of this initiative. We're one of the first states in the country to actually officially recognize intermediaries. And what that really looks like is the intermediaries essentially need to apply to us, and we review their application, and essentially they need to have some sort of track record of success of either supporting industry or career seekers and apprentices within the apprenticeship ecosystem in Colorado. So they need to have that track record of success of either registering a program or adding employers to existing programs or helping a career seeker, sit down and explore what a registered apprenticeship looks like, or supporting apprentices throughout their program. So we, as I've been sort of alluding to, we recognize intermediaries in two categories. So either an industry apprenticeship intermediary or a talent apprenticeship intermediary. So the industry, as you can imagine, focuses in on employers' needs, while the talent apprenticeship intermediaries focus in more on career seeker and apprentices. So that's something that's maybe a little different in Colorado, because we typically intermediaries are thought of as really focusing on the employer side, but we also do recognize those that focus in more on the talent side. So think of your local workforce boards or local workforce centers. All of them are recognized as qualified apprenticeship intermediaries in Colorado because they all know what a registered apprenticeship is and help us get the word out about those. I also wanted to hone in on a few things that Melissa alluded to earlier. So first, our qualified apprenticeship intermediaries, they've demonstrated that they know what a registered apprenticeship is and can help us get the word out. And so a lot of them actually have expertise in program development as well. So they can actually sit down with an employer, talk with them about registered apprenticeship, help them decide if it's a good fit, and then kind of get them started on that program development piece. And so we've actually shared our apprenticeship development form with our qualified apprenticeship intermediaries, and they actually get that program development started for us, get that developed, and then hand it over to us to actually register. So essentially what we're doing is just receiving the apprenticeship development form and kind of fast tracking that registration, which has been super, super exciting. I think I also saw a question in the chat around the post registration support and what this looks like in Colorado. One of our main strategies for this is we have registered apprenticeship programs that get their program set up, and then maybe they want to explore more ways to get the word out about their program, specifically to recruit apprentices. So maybe they, a lot of times they'll come to us and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to post our job on Indeed, but is there any other ways to get this word out? And so that's when we provide them resources, and specifically we connect them to our talent intermediaries. And so we say, hey, have you heard of the local workforce center? They may be able to help get the word out about your registered apprenticeship program. Or here's, all of our talent intermediaries. It might be a good idea to connect with them because they work with career seekers, right? So we really use our intermediaries as that post-registration support, specifically within recruitment. And we've had a lot of success there over the last 3 years that we've been implementing. Once you get access to these slides, you will be able to click on our webpage. It has all the details about our qualified apprenticeship intermediaries. Their services, what they do, and you'll see on there that we have both Colorado intermediaries that are Colorado specific, such as our local workforce centers, but we also have national intermediaries as well, which is really exciting. So that's another one of our innovative strategies. And then I think I have one more here. Yeah, so we also, when I was talking earlier about our intermediaries helping us get the word out about registered apprenticeships, specifically to new employers and new potential sponsors, some of them do have that expertise in program development, but not all of them do. What we do though is with our industry intermediaries, we do train them all on what we call qualified referrals. And really, qualified referrals are a way to expand the apprenticeship system in Colorado by utilizing the intermediaries as the folks that are actually doing the outreach to employers on our behalf, because we do have a small team that's really focused in on that program development and registration as well as compliance. And so we want to utilize our intermediaries to use their expertise to help us get the word out. And so Melissa alluded to earlier of how we help prospective sponsors explore if registered apprenticeship is a good fit. We actually offer them that orientation. If that employer is working with one of our qualified apprenticeship intermediaries, the qualified apprenticeship intermediaries actually share the information that we offer in the orientation, and then they're referred through a specific form directly to us. So it allows our intermediaries to talk to employers, help them decide if it's a good fit, and then they get referred directly to us and don't have to go to the orientation. So it's kind of like a fast track way to have employers come to us. They're already primed and ready to go. They know what a registered apprenticeship is. They know that it's a good fit for them. And then we can just get started on that program development real quick. And so we've had a lot of success with these qualified referrals as well. And like I said, it's really, really just recognizing that a lot of our partners are already doing the outreach for us. So really working hand in hand with them to have them do the outreach and then get us those new employers that want to start new registered apprenticeship programs. All right. And then I did want to share one promising practice here. So we partner with our Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. They're actually one of our qualified apprenticeship intermediaries. They are both a talent intermediary as well as a industry intermediary. They have staff focused in both on the business side as well as the career seeker side. And we've really, really partnered with them to do a two-pronged approach to increase access to registered apprenticeship programs for individuals with disabilities. So we've had a longstanding partnership with them and so happy to have them as a qualified apprenticeship intermediary. Over the last few months, we've actually really gotten our program development and qualified referrals really on lock with them. I think we're in the process of developing three new registered apprenticeship programs that have been referred directly by DVR. DVR has staff that are focused in on businesses specifically and helping them implement strategies to employ individuals with disabilities. So we have employers that are already working with DVR that are already bought in to increasing access for that population. And then we have the DVR folks then talking to them about registered apprenticeship and saying, hey, this is actually a model that may be a good fit for you. This is what it looks like. This is how to know if it's a good fit.
And then if that employer is like, yeah, actually, I really do want to start a registered apprenticeship, then that's when DBR sends us a qualified referral. And like I said, these have been picking up recently. We're really excited about the success that we've had so far. And we're gonna keep that going because we do have that dedicated partnership with DBR. So yeah, this is one of our success stories of that qualified apprenticeship intermediary using that qualified referral. A lot of qualifieds, I know. We like our term qualified in Colorado. All right, friends, I'm going to hand you back over to Melissa.
Thanks, Fred. So you have heard a lot about some of the innovative initiatives that Bryn really leads and her team heads up and my team supports. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about one last thing that we really focus on in Colorado, and that is our teacher degree apprenticeship program. And so we, in 2023, the same year that we became the state apprenticeship agency, there was another piece of legislation that came through, and that was to create a program called the Teacher Degree Apprenticeship Program. And this was another exciting piece of legislation that created something new in Colorado, and that was a really creative partnership between the State Apprenticeship Agency and the Colorado Department of Education to think differently about how they could work together to create apprenticeship programs in a new way while solving a problem in Colorado, which was the shortage for teachers. And so this legislation, which is SB 23087, which we just call the Teacher Degree Apprenticeship Program, or we call it TDAP, which we then realized was a vaccine of some sort. So we really just call it the Teacher Degree Apprenticeship Program, is something that we really work very hard to um, build this strong partnership between these two state agencies so that at the heart of it, we can get more teachers on the ground in Colorado in this really creative way. So this teacher degree apprenticeship pathway gets teachers teaching more quickly. It helps residents to be training and working in their communities. It puts first year teachers in the classrooms with more practical experience due to the registered apprenticeship programs that they've participated in for 3 to 4 years while they're going to school, earning their bachelor's degree and their teaching licensure. It really has been creating a more diverse talent pool and increasing retention. And so very similar to other things that we see with registered apprenticeship, it is at the core an employer-driven model, really structured on the job learning, still that earn while you learn model. The one thing that is somewhat different is that this program does have a bachelor's degree integrated into it. It is a requirement. And every apprentice, along with their bachelor's degree, does end their apprenticeship with their teaching licensure. And there is mentorship integrated into it. And I'm going to go a little bit more into the details of this program when I kind of do a side-by-side comparison of registered apprenticeship with the teacher degree. And here it is. So as you can see, we like to kind of put these two comparisons next to each other of what the components of every registered apprenticeship program has, and then kind of the additions that the teacher degree apprenticeship program lays on top of it. So for every registered apprenticeship, we know that they are going to have that paid employment, and they're going to produce high quality work as they are learning the skills and enhancing their employer needs. In addition to that, our teacher degree apprenticeship program, they're specifically going to be employed in a school district, BOCE here, that's what we call them in Colorado, a charter school. So in a school setting as a teacher apprentice. So that's kind of the addition on the teacher degree program. For the on-the-job learning component, the apprentice is going to develop their skills through that on-the-job learning setting for an apprenticeship. that is 2,000 to 8,000 hours, depending on the occupation, specifically for the teacher degree. Our apprenticeships are a hybrid program, and they're 4,500 to 6,000 hours. The competencies align with the Colorado Department of Education quality standards for teaching, and the apprentice works as the teacher of record for 1 year during their last year of their registered apprenticeship program. So that's kind of that teacher degree addition for the on-the-job learning. For the related instruction component, every registered apprenticeship, the apprentice is going to get their related instruction that complements their on-the-job learning. It is that recommended 144 hours per year. For the teacher degree program, as I mentioned, the apprentice is going to be actively enrolled in a bachelor's degree from accredited university or institution. And for the mentorship component, this one is a little different for the teacher degree. So for every apprenticeship program, the apprentice has to have the support of an experienced journey worker. For the teacher degree, that mentorship has to be provided by a mentor teacher, and there are additional components written into the legislation about what that looks like. So mentorship has really kind of taken up a degree for the teacher degree apprenticeship program, which is really, we're excited to see that and kind of what that will look like for these programs. So next slide. So if you remember, we've seen this journey map earlier today. So we like to overlay this with some of the requirements for the teacher degree program, because as I mentioned, this program has a unique collaboration between the Department of Education, the Colorado Department of Education, and the State Apprenticeship Agency. And so this became really interesting because we had to look at what dual approval of an apprenticeship looked like. And so I wanted to just show you how we kind of figured this out when we were approving it with two different agencies. So we're still really focusing on exploration, making sure it's a good fit. But after that exploration, the program first has to be approved by the State Board of Education. So the sponsor completes an application that is submitted to the State Board of Education, and that sponsor has to be approved to even begin the development process. Once they are approved by the State Board of Education, then they come into program development. They go through development with two individuals helping them, one from the Apprenticeship Colorado and one from Department of Education. Department of Ed is really focusing on that related instruction and licensure requirement, and Apprenticeship Colorado is really focusing on the registered apprenticeship requirements and program development from our perspective, making sure that it's going to meet all of our requirements. We take them through kind of that same program development journey, making sure that it's ready for registration. The program is first registered by the State Apprenticeship Agency. Once it is registered by the State Apprenticeship Agency, the program goes back and is then approved again by the State Board of Education. So it has to be approved again before it is officially a teacher degree apprenticeship program. So we kind of, like I said, that dual approval process. But then once it's approved there, it is ready to start enrolling those teacher degree apprentices. Next slide. So the last thing I wanted to share was just what one of our programs looks like. So this is one of our newest teacher degree apprenticeship programs. And it is interesting because it is one of our very new teacher degree apprenticeship. It was just approved by the State Board of Education last week, but it is paired with one of our older para programs that has been around since 2021. And so a school district here in Colorado, Cherry Creek School District, has had what they call the Future Educator Pathway, which is a competency-based teacher aide or paraprofessional program, which has, I believe it has 70 some apprentices in it. And they were very excited when the teacher degree apprenticeship program came along because they wanted to create a great pathway between their future educator program into what they now call the aspiring educator pathway. And that was for both the paras to become teachers and for individuals that already work within the school districts to have a pathway into becoming a teacher as well. So the future educator is high school students, and the aspiring educator can be both high school students who are part of the future educator pathway, as well as other individuals that might be interested in joining that registered apprenticeship program. And so a great example of how a sponsor can create career pathways within their registered apprenticeships. They can have two separate programs that can work individually. And it just really all depends on what each apprentice's individual goals are. But it's creating all different types of options based on what is available in the registered apprenticeship world. And so we're really excited. You can kind of see that future educator, that high school program, that high school individuals leaving with 20 plus college credits, the opportunity to, if they choose, to move into that aspiring educator to become a licensed teacher after they get their bachelor's degree, or they may choose to move forward with just continuing to be a para or moving into a different career pathway. And then we have the aspiring educator, which is right now focused in elementary education. That individual is going to, like I said, graduate with their bachelor's degree in their teaching licensure. So we're really excited about that. This program has great higher ed partners. Like I said, the employer partners, Cherry Creek School District, and they're their own sponsor of this program. So, and to answer your question, Lynn, yes, this one is connected with community college. That related instruction provider is the community college here in Colorado. So we are going to stop talking and let you all talk and ask us questions if you have them.
All right, and we're coming a little bit up on our time. So I noticed that Brand and Melissa both have been answering questions in the chat. So again, if we don't get to your questions, we're going to create this document, and also they're answering in the chat as we are going along. But let's see. I'll just pull a couple of questions out here. So just the last one, Lynn asked, are any of these teacher apprenticeships connected with the community college is one of the questions.
Yep, they are. So we have the one that I highlighted it is with a community college here, the Community College of Aurora. And this one is really interesting because they actually created their new degree program specifically for a teacher degree, had it go through higher ed to be approved. And so we're really excited about that. So we have a variety of both community colleges and our other four-year schools connected with our teacher degree program.
Awesome. Another question from Gabriel, and this says, this is really impressive and helpful to see. And then the question is, what strategies have you found most effective for motivating and building engagement with an SAA that isn't as established yet?
Oh, that's great.
Any strategies? Or if you want to think on it, we can definitely respond in writing.
Yeah. And I think, Bryn, if you have anything too, you can come off mute. I think it's always just, for me, it's just building that open communication and kind of, everyone, when you're having that communication, that dialogue of what you're looking for and what they're looking for in that partnership is so important. And then once you start at that common ground, then you can just really build off of that. I mean, I think back to before we were the SAA, it was what we were building with USDOL. And, it was, what do you need? What do we need? And that's how we created the resources like the apprenticeship development forum and things like that. So, at the core, it really comes down to communications.
Yeah, that's almost precisely what I was going to say, is really just partnering with the SAA to understand where their head's at, what do they need. Melissa's being very modest when she says we developed the apprenticeship development forum. No, Melissa developed the apprenticeship development forum specifically when before we were the SAA, and it was as a strategy to connect with our USDOL apprenticeship director here at the time, to make sure that we were developing programs that were in alignment with state and federal regulations. And so I completely agree with all of that, is really just opening the lines of communication and meaningful partnership.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Brian. And I know there are a couple of other questions in the chat box, so we'd love for you to hang out and if you can answer some of those questions, and we'll get that out to you all. And then they've also left their contact information here. I'll email that out to you, and you'll also get a copy of this presentation. They also left a variety, so many resources that we're going to share with you all. So they have some takeaway resources here, as well as their video series on being wrap ready. So I'm excited to share that with you all. So just so you all know that that is coming. But we do want to transition here. So we're going from our state perspective, highlighting the state of Colorado, to now we want to highlight some employers and really listen to our employers talk about the value of apprenticeship. So we have four employers, businesses on today, and I'm going to let Kelly introduce them, and they can come off of mute, and we will start our employer panel. So Kelly, you can unmute yourself and introduce your panel.
Thanks so much, Kim. Today, we're joined by four incredible leaders who are engaged in apprenticeship programs across different sectors and communities. And our goal for this conversation is to hear directly from employers and program leaders about why they chose to engage in apprenticeship, the value apprenticeship provides to their organizations and employees, and importantly, what workforce agencies and partners could do to more effectively engage employers in apprenticeship programs. Many of you in the audience work in workforce development, training, or intermediary roles, so we hope the conversation provides practical insights and how to build strong. Chris Friedel with IBEW, NECA, Electrical Training Center, as well as the Greatest Youth Build Lake County. So thank you all for being here today and for sharing your experiences. And I'm hoping that matches your role, your organization, and also mention how you're engaged in apprenticeship if you're an employer partner, or sponsoring supporting the sponsorship of apprenticeships, and then what apprenticeship programs that you're engaged in. And I'll start off with you, Sonia.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sonia Kreitz, and I am the Vice President of our reentry programs with a company called Amity Foundation. We provide in-custody treatment, substance abuse treatment, and life skills training to individuals that are in need of that support. And we are an employee partner working with FHI 360 on the apprenticeship for the community health worker role. And specifically, we hire peer support specialists, which is part of that community health worker apprenticeship. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sonia. I'll go to Chris. Okay, well then we'll come back to Chris and go with Janice.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Janice. I'm the Director of Youth Workforce Development and AmeriCorps at Urban Neighborhood Initiatives, which is based in Southwest Detroit. I support three of our programs. One is our Leaders in Training Workforce Program. So I lead a team of success coaches and a youth employment coordinator. We provide direct support to youth that are ages 14 to 24, working to address any barriers they have to workforce and education. I also lead our AmeriCorps program that supports youth in first to eighth grades that are struggling with attendance. And then I also support the Youth Development Practitioner Apprenticeship in partnership with FHI 360, just by supporting with logistics, space for sessions, and ensuring apprentices stay engaged. And then urban neighborhood initiatives as a whole. Like I said, we're based in Southwest Detroit, and really think about our work and support in terms of cradle to career. And we want our residents to have everything that they need to live, work, and thrive.
Thanks so much, Janice. James?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Humphreys, and I'm our director of our Youth Build program here at Youth Build Lake County, which is located in North Chicago, Illinois. So not the north side of Chicago, but the city, North Chicago. And here within our program, we serve youth between the ages of 16 and 24 to earn their high school diploma, industry recognized credentials in construction and healthcare. We provide those supportive services as well to help navigate through barriers so that our participants are successful within our program. And then we support with that mock interview and that job placement for post the program. We are actually within our second cohort within the youth developer practitioner apprenticeship, which is super, super amazing. And for both cohorts, I have served as the supervisor. So thank you.
Thanks so much, James. And hopefully we can go back to Chris Friedel.
Good afternoon. Technology is great as long as it works.
It's been a thing today, Chris.
So my name is Chris Friedel, and I'm the Assistant Director of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Apprenticeship in Cincinnati, Ohio. Assistant Director means I'm like the Vice Principal of a 400 adult school. So we're an apprenticeship. There's a lot of difference in different types of apprenticeships, but we are what's called a JATC, a Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee, which means that our sponsors of our partners of our apprenticeship are a labor union and a electrical contractors association. So we have labor management at the table that provides the contractual opportunity for us to have an apprenticeship. And like I said, we have 400 individuals going through our 4-year program. Earn while you learn. They're employed full-time with their employer, and they go to school 2 nights a week, like high school schedule, for 4 hours in the afternoon, in the evenings, to get their classroom-related training, which is a grand total of 720 hours of classroom training and 8,000 hours of on-the-job training.
Thanks so much, Chris, and thank you all for those introductions. Let's talk about how this work began. Our first question is, what originally motivated your organization to get involved in apprenticeship? And Janice, I'll start with you, and then James, Sonia, Chris, if you would all mind to respond. So Janice?
Yeah, so Urban Neighborhood Initiatives, which we call UNI for short, our primary focus is youth development. And one of the things that we were looking for when we were talking about being a part of this was needing to build a stronger, more intentional pipeline into youth development work. In our programs, we see a lot of young people, very entry level, who have a passion for this type of work. They also have a lot of lived experience, but they don't have and didn't have clearly defined pathways that would lead them into a sustainable career path. So we felt like the YDPA helped to bridge that gap. by combining like the on-the-job experience that they had, because the apprentices are coordinators and on our actual staff. So to combine that with the different skills that they needed, and most importantly, like a nationally recognized credential. We also thought that it aligned with our broader goals around workforce development for the youth that we serve and for our staff. So we really tried to focus on just creating pathways where the youth can grow into roles like coordinators and program leaders. We actually have several youth on our staff who started off with our organization as being a part of programming. So there's actually our youth employment coordinator has actually been on staff since he was 14. But in general, what really stood out to us was that this was a way the apprentices to strengthen the work that they were already doing. And what we were adding were things like coaching, facilitation, mentoring. So we've been able to see those things support them with confidence and technical skills and being able to use those in real time. So we looked at it as a way to invest in our youth.
And similar to Janice, we serve youth here at Youth Build Lake County 16 to 24. And initially, when I received this information and the opportunity, wasn't quite sure of what it was. And it just seemed like something in addition to. And as we know, just working with youth, there's this constant need to be able to move how they move. So just keeping up and being able to provide them with the support needed. But once I connected with FHI 360 and our technical officer, Daria, who just took some time to explain exactly what the apprenticeship offered, we realized that it was an opportunity that we couldn't pass up. We were actually in the space of hiring for a crucial position here at Youth Build Lake County, our member services and data manager. And we identified a candidate who had a really strong background in supportive services, identifying resources, data input, being able to share out and tell the story through the data, but had not had as much experience directly supporting youth. And we identified that this would be a great opportunity. So not only did we receive the information, but had an apprentice in mind right away to start the process. So we learned that this was an opportunity to build upon those basic fundamentals, but also enhance how we serve our youth. And with us, we know that the principles or the strategies that we use for our participants 2, 3 years ago, but even the cohort before, we need to be able to ensure that we are on trend with those learning and engagement opportunities for our participants. Through that, we also learned about the different modules through the YDPA. So just the adolescent development and resilience, which align with our developmental relationships. And everything just highlighted really provided us with the assurance that this was a great opportunity for our apprentice.
So for us at Amity Foundation, I think what originally motivated us was back in June, we had a contract renewal. We have 31 different in custody program sites. So I have very large hiring needs. I've got a large group of people providing services. And we had a new role with our new contract. It's kind of newly minted, still rolling out for a peer support specialist, which was different than our certified or registered AOD counselors, which we had been working with. So we had added this additional position. And we quickly discovered that there was not yet a large pipeline there, that this was still a developing role. And then we found out that FHI 360 had the ability and willingness to provide this apprenticeship through the community health worker apprenticeship, which would allow individuals to obtain that certification. And from there, it was just, a very obvious solution to support our hiring needs, our training needs, and to really start being part of a solution to build access to a well-trained candidate pool for employment with our organization. Yeah.
So I think one of the obvious things is that not everybody's born with the knowledge to be an electrician. If your contract, we have 45 contractors here in Cincinnati. So, they employ all of our apprentices and 1,600 journeymen in the area. But the interesting thing that makes me a little bit different than probably most of you is that our apprenticeship has been in existence since 1948. Our parent organization, IBW, and has been around for going on 135 years. We are celebrating our 125th year here in Cincinnati this year. So, we've been in this game for a good while. I'm a product of the apprenticeship, and so is my daughter, so is my son, so is my son-in-law. So we're a family of electricians, and it's just a great opportunity, for somebody to learn a skill and and also to meet the needs of the employers.
Thanks, everyone. And let's dig a little deeper into that employer perspective. And from an employer standpoint, what problems or challenges does apprenticeship help solve, for the industry? And I know you all kind of all touched on it, but Chris, I'd love to start here with you. As you mentioned, having the long-term experience and exposure to the electrical industry and how you've seen that evolve. Would love to just have you talk a little bit about, how apprenticeship has helped support the Cincinnati area and the industry for electricians.
All right, thank you. So it comes down to, I've been doing this position for 18 years, and as the assistant, I do a lot of outreach and things like that. So one of the biggest things that I think that we at the apprenticeship do for employers is, we have to think both. We have to think of as the employer and also as the apprenticeship for the apprentice, and go by our standards and state statutes and things like that. But I can really say that the advantage for employers are that they don't really have to have, our contractors enjoy not having to have a full HR department that is looking at how they're going to bring in their new generation of workers into their company. I go out and do the outreach. So definitely the apprenticeship is the lifeblood of the industry, and having a joint apprenticeship training committee, both with the union and the contractor association sitting on our trust and our board, they all play a important decision in, where what our academics are and things like that. So, all the above, as far as looking at the ability for hiring, how many apprentices do we bring in each year, which is around 85 to 100 brand new opportunities coming in, looking at how many people are retiring from the industry, how much work is coming up into our local area. So, I do think that I have a lot of respect for the employers on the aspect of, they have signed on to an agreement with the union that basically they agree to the pay raises and the pay for the apprentices and the benefits and the pay raises, and eventually the promise at the end of the apprenticeship, the light at the end of the tunnel of being a journey person, an electrician, is that that's an investment that those contractors are making in our workforce, whether it's an apprentice or a journeyman. So, with the apprentices, starting out, through the apprenticeship, the 4-year apprenticeship, did some quick math, and they're making around $250,000 with wages and benefits as they go through our 4-year program. So that's when you have some contractors that are 5-person shops, and then you have some contractors that are 100 persons, shops, looking at that investment. And then when they become a journey person, from that point on, you're talking over $100,000, wages and benefit package for each individual that's working for that company. So, like I said, at the end of the day, apprenticeship is always about being the lifeblood of whatever industry that's out there. And the beautiful relationship that we have with our employers. We have a national organization that oversees 450 of our of the parent national organization that helps us facilitate over 450 other locations around the United States. About every major city you see in the United States has an IBEW. So shameless plug, if you know somebody who wants to be an electrician, just Google your local area and they got the process and procedure and it can take care of it. So
I appreciate that, Chris. And thanks for putting that plug out there. Not shameless at all. And I think many of the people on the call would take you up on the offer of connecting if they aren't already connected. Janice, James, or Sonia, does anything that Chris has mentioned, resonate with you? Are you seeing similar needs or challenges that apprenticeships helping you solve in your industries or local areas?
As an employer partner, I would say that he really summed that up well. I think two of the biggest things are, that pipeline to have individuals with the appropriate certification that we can hire, as well as having a highly skilled group of individuals to provide the services. And what I found over the last couple of months is this apprenticeship has really provided both of those. It's helped with a good, strong pipeline. So we have candidates to invest in, and it really has strengthened their skill set and their confidence.
And I'll add, for us, especially working in Southwest Detroit, many of our youth in Southwest Detroit has one of the largest populations of youth in the city. A lot of youth are concentrated here, and there aren't always a lot of like really clear pathways into the more sustainable careers, especially if you're not someone who's pursuing a four-year degree. So for us, we looked at the apprenticeships as like a more structured pathway than ones we currently have, where you can earn while you learn. We think that that makes this as an entry level point more accessible. We actually have a number of out of school pathways, for example, for youth that are 18 to 24, where we actually pay them to attend the trainings, and then they get a completion stipend at the end if they actually gain that certificate. It also helps us to support youth that have very limited work experience. A lot of youth they're struggling to get hired because they don't have a lot of the soft skills. So they need support with like resume and interviewing. And a long-term apprenticeship, we think, supports with solving for that. Also, a lot of our youth, because, we're in what's considered a low income area, a lot of our youth just can't afford participating in internships and other programs that are unpaid. And so having them be a part of this apprenticeship, especially while learning on the job, allows them to make money and allows us to support them financially as they move along and complete the training.
And then I'll just add three things. One, it opened channels of communication. So our apprentices have a mentor within the organization, and being able to ensure that they are understanding the material, but also are providing that knowledge on, delivering that information. It has been really, really good. So within my team, I'm connecting with my team every week, but this allows an individual from a different department. So development, we had a mentor from finance, we had a mentor from, so it provides a different vantage point on the work that our apprentices are able to offer. It does support, it definitely enhances the skill gap, but then it is also supportive to the strategies that we already have embedded into our program. So as part of our touch points before we invite young people into the program, we have what we call an iceberg interview. And one of the modules within the framework is motivational interviewing. And my apprentice shared with me that with that knowledge, he has been able to really enhance and build upon those icebergs, creating an even deeper, meaningful relationship with the young person that will strengthen them coming through the touch points to potentially being invited to what we call mental toughness and thus onboarded into our program, which we identify as just needed points in order to have that retainment and engagement of our participants.
I greatly appreciate all of you sharing not only how apprenticeship helps support some of the workforce challenges and hiring challenges that you experience, but you've also moved into, what that impact looks like, across the not only with your apprentices or your organizations. I'll just give a pointed question around that because it's not just the apprentice, it's also your employer, you're the other employees that you may have or the mentors. And so, if you all wouldn't mind, and Janice, I'll start with you just to maybe share a little bit more about what does that impact look like with your mentors. I know you shared a little bit about, what that impact could look like to youth, but if there are other pieces that you'd want to share around what the impact has been on the apprentice, I think that the group would love to hear how that apprenticeship is not only impacting the apprentice, but the organization as a whole.
So I'll speak to mentors first. I know that thankfully FHI 360 gave us like this whole mentor toolkit, which we did use as more of like a guide framework for how the mentors check in with the youth, but just to ensure that it was kind of more aligned with our organization. Our mentors do more of like informal kind of check-ins with youth. So when I started talking with the mentors and we were thinking about how to pair them up with the apprentices, one thing that I did share with them was that we wanted this to be more informal. So we didn't want the youth to feel like they had yet another kind of adult supervisor person that they needed to check in with more. So we wanted it to be more of a space where they were able to just like talk through things. So like an example, so if I need to have a hard conversation with my supervisor, do you have thoughts or guidance on how I can go about doing that? We also sent out just like a quick survey to our mentors to ask them, since we're asking for their time, like being sure to get from them, what do you want to get from this process? And a lot of them, shared things like they wanted to work with the youth and be a mentor because that was something that they didn't have early on in their career. And the feedback that I've gotten is that a lot of them, as they're in their chosen career paths, they now get to feed forward to youth that are kind of coming up behind them and that are working in not exactly even directly aligned fields, but like similar fields. So the impact on them from the feedback that I've heard is that they are enjoying being able to impart knowledge and doing it in a way that they didn't receive before. Did you want me to speak to how the impact on the apprentices or just kind of?
Oh, would love for you to share what the impact
Okay.
has been on your apprentices.
Yeah, so we've also been working with Daria. She's been facilitating the online sessions. We've had to pivot a couple of times just to, just like I said, we work with a lot of youth. So we've seen a lot of growth in the apprentices coming from where they started in terms of facilitation, how they communicate, comfortability communicating, how they show up in group settings. We surveyed the youth that are apprentices before they participated, just kind of asking them in advance, what are some areas of growth? What are things that you want to work on? We've also seen a lot of growth in the apprentices' ability to balance multiple life responsibilities. So a lot of them they have other jobs, they have their kind of jobs here, and then they're also balancing school and just kind of personal life stuff. So we've still been working through that kind of real-time work-life balance, and that's new for a lot of young people. And that's something that, we've had to learn as like somewhat older adults, is that this generation thinks about work and their time very differently than we did in the past. They actually don't want to grind all day. They actually want to find that balance a lot earlier. And then really quickly on just like how the sessions have been being done. So the facilitation is virtual. One thing we had to pivot to was that it was really important to the youth that they have that opportunity to be with each other, have that kind of in-person support from each other. We also found out that being in person made everyone more accountable. It also like took engagement from like 1% to like 90%. So they all are very engaged now. And then another thing that we did was create group agreements just around how everyone would show up. And that was also very helpful. And so the dynamic really shifted from those first 2 or 3 months to now, we've lost a couple of apprentices who just decided that it wasn't a fit, but making those pivots and shifts like based on the support that they needed and just really kind of centering the youth has made it a lot more engaging and I think increased the impact on them because I'm seeing now that they're way more engaged and actually bringing the things that they've learned into our like staff meetings and staff huddles and into their team meetings. So that's been good to see.
I appreciate you sharing, Janice, that sometimes you have to pivot and adjust based on your staff and your apprentices, and creating the necessary supports to help engage them and help them on their journey. And apprenticeship, is a flexible model in the way, yes, there's standards and yes, there's required related instruction, but there's other ways in which you can create the right systems and supports to support your apprentices on their journey. Chris or Sonia or James, anyone who want to share a little bit about what you've seen and the impact on organizations or employers before we shift into our next question.
I real quick, easy for me to say. So I think that talking about mentorship is, in my realm, in our realm, in the construction industry, is kind of like a organic thing. We have 400 apprentices working for 1,600 journeymen out in the field for 45 contractors. When you're working side by side, somebody that's generally probably older than you and more experienced than you as an apprentice, they're teaching you the trade, they're teaching you the soft skills. You're sharing stories about experiences, you're becoming friends. The journey people out on the job basically adopt you as an apprentice. What we didn't have when I went through the apprenticeship is, the use of cell phones. When an apprentice, younger individuals is starting to slack, usually a journey person will text them and say, "Hey, where are you at? Are you going to miss today?" Checking in on them. So, I think that, that's one of the beautiful things about apprenticeship in our industries is the mentorship. And then the other side of it is I see the apprentices, every day, they come in here, their first time in the apprenticeship, they're wide-eyed and don't know what to expect. And it's all new. And then they get about to their third year, and then the grind is kind of getting to them. And then when they're getting into their fourth and final year, that about between the third and fourth year, they kind of hate us because we're making them go through, we're making them do all this stuff that they signed up to do. And then, at graduation, when they become a journey person and they're making 100,000 a year and they have the ability to really easily obtain an associate's degree, and they've made it through the grind, on both sides, as far as mentors and for the participants. It's an awesome opportunity.
Thanks so much, Chris. So I'll shift to our next question, and please, if there's more comments around how which we'll actually get a chance to talk about a little bit more. I think what that full impact is. By all means, love to hear more from the panel. But I want to touch base with James because I know many workforce agencies struggle with how to approach employers about apprenticeship, and I think so far in this conversation, I think you're probably giving them a lot of ideas on how to maybe reframe some of the conversations had. But thinking back, James, to when your organization first decided to participate, since you are now going through your second cohort of youth development practitioner apprenticeship, what helped convince you to move forward with the apprenticeship?
Yeah, so again, this was pretty new when I started this opportunity. We were running 3 apprenticeships already. So our Youth Build program, which is a pre-apprenticeship, our pre-apprenticeship program through the state, and then our registered pre-apprenticeship. So when this apprenticeship came through, it was like, okay, another apprenticeship. However, this one was specifically in support and development of our team. So that was the first, okay, what's going on here? And then there was this information coming through that did not quite understand. Again, Daria provided just some support with navigating and highlighting what the opportunity and the experience would be. I would honestly say it seemed a little too good to be true because there was an opportunity for some other opportunities that we received as employers. But for this program time frame of about a year, that our participant could still work, but still learn and earn while on the job and have that increase at the completion of their apprenticeship. But then there was also this opportunity to meet in person, and FHI 360 had this kickoff where they connected with the apprentices, but then also connected separately with the supervisors and mentors. And in that space, I realized that I wasn't the only one wondering what was happening, but the team really walked us through the platforms, the expectations, and really empowered us to ensure that we provide time. That's one thing that I look at every day, like, oh, do I have time for this or what time is this? And with this apprenticeship, there's this requirement of time. And if we don't make time for it, then we won't have this amazing opportunity to support our participant or our apprentices with an opportunity to build that confidence. Communication is shifting from just concerns or issues to more solution oriented, and just an increase in motivation and encouragement. So, learning about those opportunities really opened our eyes and our ears. And at that time, we also was in a unique space of being able to hire on a brand new staff person that had the right skills and talents, but could use some additional development within the space of serving our youth. Let's see. There was this increased level of support too. So not only am I supporting my team, but this community we learned was created. So the in-person conversations that Janice mentioned continued throughout the apprenticeship. So our apprentice had an opportunity to bounce off ideas, think through things with this community that was created through the apprenticeship. Let's see. And then when we looked at our organizational culture, identifying and remembering who it is that we want to be, to continuously provide these opportunities for our staff. And it goes deeper than just a weekend staff retreat training or a 2-hour professional development, but this was a year-long opportunity and commitment to increase the development of our team. So that right there was an opportunity for us to say, yes, this is the direction that we wanted to go. And it came through our local workforce too. So we try to engage and participate and take advantage of those amazing opportunities and resources. And I feel like I say opportunities so many times, but truly, this is what has been highlighted, just hearing the feedback from our apprentices this year and last year. And it created this space where our apprentices, I remember one saying that, thank you for allowing me to do this. It shows me that you believe in me and that I'm able to continuously grow. And looking at all those factors again, we had to participate and looking forward to the next year as well.
Thanks so much, James. And really building on that question, Sonia, I'll come to
Mhm.
you. You know, what types of messaging or support from workforce agencies, or partners would be helpful to you as an employer to successfully launch or sustain an apprenticeship program? Because I think that's one of the things for many on the call. They're trying to figure out how best can meet employers and get them engaged in apprenticeship. So Sonia, I'll start with you, and then I look to the panel if you have any additional comments to make. So Sonia.
So, like, really, two things come to mind. As you know, from the perspective of the employer, I think there's two things that are really critical. The first is connecting with them and showing how this apprenticeship will meet a need they have for a stronger workforce, for a better pipeline, for a more skilled workforce. But being able to really clearly sort of give them a vision of how this apprenticeship will support them in their needs for a well-skilled, strong workforce. The other part, and I think this was just actually talked about quite eloquently by James, is also really reiterating how much support you will get through the process. I think one thing for employers is what there's already so much going on, and to feel like I'm going to have to do all this work to have apprentices, and it's going to put a lot of extra burden on my HR team or this or that. And really, my experience was quite the opposite. You guys at HI 360 made it so simple, it never felt like a burden at all. You guys are right there to walk us through it. And I think that if more employers are aware, A, of specifically how this apprenticeship is going to support what their specific needs are, and B, that like as part of the apprenticeship, you get this direct guidance, you get this direct support. You don't have to stumble through this and figure it out. You got somebody walking you through every step of it. It becomes just the easiest decision to make.
Janice, James, Chris, anyone want to chime in on that or add anything additional?
The only thing I would add is just being sure to like have conversations with the organizations, not just the executive director or that specific program leader, but pulling in everyone who's, I guess, programmed that this would touch, so that everyone on the kind of leadership, I'll just call it leadership team, but on the leadership team understands like the reason for the apprenticeships, gets to hear from like someone like FHI 360 of like how this can be beneficial. Because that was one of the challenges that we ran into, was like, how do we frame this to the rest of the team and the apprentices so that this doesn't feel like an added piece, so that this doesn't feel like we're adding more work. So I think those earlier conversations can support the team in helping to frame like how this is actually aligned with our mission, vision, and what we're actually trying to do, and how this will actually support in growing our workforce rather than adding more to everyone's plate.
I think that one of the big conversations too is talking about the return on investment. You know, when you're as an organization and with your employers that partner with you, is, you know, I think I've seen a statistic like, you know, for every dollar spent, you know, it's like 40 to 50% return, you know, on the lifetime of that individual in that position. And then like public dollars, it's like for every public dollar that's spent on educating the workforce, it's like another $10 in return throughout that person's career. So, you know, I mean, that's the statistics that I saw, but you know, you can work on it in your industry, but that's, you know, money talks, and then, you know, the opportunity, you know, for things like that. That's how it works. So.
I am not coughing because of being emotional, but I do need to take a drink of water. Thank you so much for your responses. I know we're a little bit over time. You may have other calls or appointments that you need to go to. So Kim, I don't know if we have any questions in the chat that we want to briefly do. I did have one final thing to ask the panel if they had any advice for employer partners that to encourage them to go into apprenticeships. But Kim, I'll turn it over to you because I am also, mindful of time.
I'm good, Kelly. I just wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity. Hope that I brought some information to you that was useful, and we're fair.
Okay, and I took a drink of water. Yes, I want to thank everyone for on the panel, and giving you all a chance to and being willing to share what your experience has been. Before you depart, if there aren't any questions in the chat, and if there are questions, we'll definitely respond to them, as Kim pointed out, afterwards in a FAQ document. But if were there any final or last words you may want to share as it pertains to advice for an employer to engage or starting an apprenticeship program?
Kelly, thank you for this opportunity. I think I just want to encourage everyone to ask questions. I know some of the time Daria probably was looking like another question, but this ensures that you are understanding the information so that you can provide it to your team. That you will, and for me, serving as a supervisor of the apprenticeship, when the apprentice or the mentor does have questions, I want to be able to support them and point them in the right direction. Some of the tools may be new as well, or even new tools on the side of the apprenticeship, and just identifying what the kinks are and how to make that a bit more feasible so that it's not a deterrent of, just the process, but just asking those questions, having those check-ins, even outside of the mentor apprentice conversation. So even in my one-on-one, just how are things going? Being able to ensure that they have the time to work on those items, and just checking for and learning too, holding ourselves accountable to be able to follow through. So if I know that at large the cohort is moving to module number 3 and my apprentice is still at module 1, that means that I may not be supporting them as best as possible. I need to regroup and refocus on identifying what that problem is so that they have what they need and providing that space. And it'll create, an opportunity for retaining that person and being able to highlight the opportunities for the next apprentice to come. So just want to thank you all again for the opportunity.
I also want to thank you guys for the opportunity, and I would add, just as my advice, what I found is it really led to a workforce that was more skilled and knowledgeable, which I was anticipating. But what caught me off guard is their sense of confidence was just really improved by participating in the apprenticeship, and their sense of connection and being invested in was really important. And those things kind of stood out as we went through the process with our 2 cohorts. And it's been really beautiful to see how it's built my team that participated, sense of self, their self-awareness, their confidence as working professionals. And yeah, I thought it was really a great process, and I thank you guys.
And I'll just share, thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much, fellow panelists. The only, I guess, piece of advice I would offer is just make sure that you're having those conversations with the individuals that will be apprentices, because it's very important to hear from them about what they would want to gain, even just in general kind of apprenticeships they are even looking for. So having their input upfront, we've learned, makes them feel valued. I'm also being sure to like, do those check-ins with mentors as well.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation and for being so honest and forward with your experiences. Hopefully, this will help many of you out there and your efforts to engage in employers, or if you are an employer, give you something to think about as you are considering apprenticeship program. So I will turn it over to Kim. So thank you, Janice. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, James.